You grab your driver on the first tee, you swing the same way you did 20 years ago, and the ball lands 30 yards short of where it used to. You are not imagining it. You did not suddenly get weak. Something changed, and nobody told you what. Here's what I found after months of digging. The distance you lost was not stolen by your age. It was stolen by the ball in your pocket. The wrong ball can cost a slower swing 15 to 20 yards on a single drive, and almost every senior I know is playing the exact ball that punishes them most. This was common knowledge once. Club makers and ball fitters understood it 100 years ago. Then the trail went cold, buried under glossy ads and tour player endorsements. I am going to walk you through the whole thing, all the way back to a patent from 1898, and I am going to name the 5 balls that give that distance back. And this works with the swing you already have today on the course you already play. Let me start where I started. Standing on a municipal course outside Columbus, watching a man in his 70s outdrive players half his age with a swing that looked almost gentle. I could not understand it. His swing was slower than mine, his backswing was shorter, but his ball just kept going, low and hot, while mine climbed high and dropped like a wet sock. I asked him what driver he was using because I assumed it had to be the club. He laughed and told me it was not the club at all. He said, "Son, it's the ball. Nobody knows about the ball anymore." That sentence stuck in my head for weeks. Nobody knows about the ball anymore. What did that even mean? A ball is a ball. They all look the same. They are all white and round and covered in little dimples. I had been playing golf for 30 years and I had never once thought seriously about which ball I teed up. I bought whatever was on sale or whatever the pros on television were using because I figured if it was good enough for them, it was good enough for me. That assumption, it turns out, was the exact mistake. And the more I pulled on that thread, the stranger the whole thing got. So I went looking for the difference between one golf ball and another. Not the price, not the logo, the actual physics of what happens when a club face meets a ball. And the first word that kept coming up over and over in old fitting manuals and engineering papers was a word most amateur golfers have never even heard spoken out loud: compression. Compression is a number. It measures how much a golf ball squishes when it gets struck. A high compression ball is firm and hard, and it takes a tremendous amount of force to make it flex. A low compression ball is softer, and it flexes and springs back with far less force. That spring back is where your distance comes from. When the ball compresses against the face and then rebounds, it launches off the club face like a coiled spring releasing. If you never fully compress the ball, you never get the full spring. You leave energy on the table, you leave yards on the ground. Now here is the part that made me sit up. The firm, high-compression tour balls, the ones you see every professional playing, the ones marketed as the best ball money can buy, are built for swing speeds most of us will never touch. A tour player swings the driver at 113, 120 miles per hour. At that speed, they crush a firm ball completely and get every ounce of rebound. But when a golfer swinging 80 miles per hour hits that same firm ball, he cannot compress it. He is essentially hitting a rock. The ball barely flexes. It just sits there absorbing his swing instead of springing back. All that lost energy is distance that simply vanishes. I read that and I thought about the man in Columbus. Slower swing, softer ball, more distance. It suddenly made a terrible kind of sense. But I did not want to believe it on a hunch. I wanted proof. So I kept digging. And that is when the trail took me somewhere I never expected. It took me all the way back to the 1800s. Because to understand why compression matters, you have to understand how the golf ball was born and who figured this out the first time around. The story starts with a ball called the feathery. For centuries, golf balls were made by stuffing a top hat's worth of wet goose feathers into a leather pouch, then stitching it shut and letting it dry until it hardened into a solid sphere. These things were expensive, they flew poorly in the rain, and they fell apart constantly. A single feathery cost more than a golf club. Ordinary people could barely afford to play. Then, in 1848, A minister named Robert Adams Patterson took a lump of gutta percha, which is a rubbery sap from a tropical tree, and molded it into a ball. They called it the Gutty. It was cheaper, tougher, and it opened up the game to regular people for the first time. But it was solid and hard, and it flew like a stone unless you hit it perfectly. And here is the clue that changed everything for me. In 1898, a man named Coburn Haskell, working with a fellow from the B.F. Goodrich Rubber Company named Bertram Work, wound a long rubber thread under tension around a solid core and wrapped a cover around the outside. He patented it, and the patent was granted in 1899, the Haskell ball. And the thing that made the Haskell ball explode across the golfing world was not that it flew farther for the experts. It was that it flew farther for the average player. The wound rubber gave the ball spring. It compressed and rebounded. Ordinary golfers with ordinary swings suddenly gained 20 yards overnight without changing a thing about how they swung. Read that again. The single greatest leap in golf ball history was a leap in spring back for the ordinary swing. More than 120 years ago, ball makers already understood that the secret to distance for a normal golfer was a ball that would flex and rebound at a normal swing speed. They built the entire modern game on that principle. So how did we forget it? How did we get to a place where every senior in America is buying the firmest, hardest, least forgiving ball on the shelf, convinced it is the best one? That is where the trail gets darker, and that is what I want to show you next. Because somewhere between that patent in 1899 and the golf shop you walked into last month, the message got flipped completely upside down, and it did not happen by accident. Let me tell you what changed. For most of the 20th century, the wound ball that Haskell invented was the standard, and it stayed relatively soft and playable for the average golfer. But in the year 2000, a single product rewrote the entire market. Titleist released a ball called the Pro V1. It was a solid core, multi-layer ball with a firm cast urethane cover, and it gave professional players something they had never had before. Distance off the driver and precise spin control around the greens, all in one ball. It was a genuine engineering marvel. Within a couple of seasons, nearly every touring professional in the world switched to that style of ball. And this is where the story turns against you, the everyday player. Because the moment the best players on earth started using a firm, high-compression, multi-layer ball, the marketing machine went to work. Every advertisement, every commercial, every glossy magazine spread showed a professional smashing a drive 300 yards with that ball. The message was simple and it was constant. The best players use this ball. So if you want to play your best, you use this ball too. Nobody mentioned the swing speed. Nobody put an asterisk on the advertisement that said this ball only performs when struck at 110 miles per hour. Nobody told the 68-year-old man buying a sleeve of premium balls that the very firmness the professional loves is the exact firmness that would rob him of distance. The whole industry sold you the tour player's tool and quietly forgot to mention that you do not have the tour player's swing. And I want to be clear about who this hurt the most. It hurt seniors. It hurt slower swingers. It hurt exactly the people who could least afford to lose distance because they were already losing a little every year at a time. The firm premium ball took the yards that age had not even taken yet. Here is the number that made me angry when I found it. Independent robot testing, the kind done by club fitting labs that swing a machine at a fixed, repeatable speed, has shown that a golfer swinging in the low 80s miles per hour can lose somewhere between 10 and 20 yards of carry by playing a high-compression tour ball instead of a low-compression ball matched to their speed, 10 to 20 yards, on every single drive, round after round, year after year, all while paying premium prices, sometimes $50 or more for a dozen, for the privilege of hitting it shorter. Think about what that actually costs you. Not just the money, though the money is real. Think about the approach shots. If you are 10 yards shorter off the tee, you are hitting a longer club into every green. A longer club means less accuracy, more shots missing the green, more chips and more putts. That lost distance does not just cost you one shot. It cascades through your entire round. A slower swinger playing the wrong ball is fighting the game with one hand tied behind his back, and he does not even know the rope is there. I did not know the rope was there. For 30 years, I tied it around my own wrist every time I bought the shiny premium ball because a professional told me to, and once I saw it, I could not unsee it. If this is already making you rethink every ball you have ever bought, I want to point you towards something that goes even deeper. I put the complete system, the full compression framework, the 5-ball breakdown, and the fitting method into a book called First Wins, and the follow-up, Sharp Habits, builds the practice habits around it so the distance you recover actually sticks. Together they make up the full system, and you can find them linked in the description below. A lot of people tell me that reading through the framework first made everything they were doing on the course click into place in a way that watching alone never quite did. Now, back to the answer you came here for, because knowing the problem is only half of a mystery, the other half is the answer. So, let me show you exactly how to find the right ball for your swing, and then I will name the 5 that I believe give a senior the most distance for the least money. The key that unlocks all of this is one number about yourself, not about the ball. It is your driver swing speed. And here is the good news. You do not need a fancy launch monitor to get a rough idea of where you stand. There is a simple field test I found buried in an old fitting guide, and it works with nothing but the course in front of you. Take your driver and hit a good solid drive on a flat hole with no wind. Then pace off your total distance, or use a rangefinder on your ball. If your best drives carry and roll out to around 220 yards or less, your swing speed is very likely under 85 miles per hour, and you belong firmly in low compression territory. If your drives finish around 200 yards or under, you are almost certainly swinging in the 70s, and a soft ball is not optional for you. It is essential. There is an even simpler way to think about it that a club professional once told me. If you are a man over 60 who does not play every single day, or a woman of almost any age, or anyone who has noticed their drives getting shorter over the last few seasons, you are the person low compression balls were designed for. You do not need to prove it with a machine. Your scorecard already proved it. So what does low compression actually mean in a number? Compression ratings generally run from the 20s up to around 110. A tour ball sits up around 90 to 100. A true low compression ball sits down in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. That is the zone you want. That is the zone where a slower swing can fully squish the ball and get the spring back that Coburn Haskell discovered more than a century ago. Now I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now, because I thought it too. You are thinking, this is fine advice for somebody with a smooth swing and money to experiment, but my swing is slow and short and a little rough, and I am not about to go spend a fortune testing golf balls I cannot afford. I hear you. So let me talk directly to you for a minute, because this is the part that matters most for exactly your situation. You do not need to spend a fortune. You do not need new clubs. You do not need lessons. You do not need to swing harder, and please do not try to swing harder, because swinging harder is the single fastest way to lose distance and hurt your back. Everything I'm about to tell you works with the swing you have today, tired shoulders and all, and most of these balls cost less than the premium balls you are probably buying right now. Here is what you can do this very week with what you already own. Go into your garage and find your current golf balls. Look at the box or look up the model online and find the compression rating. If it is a premium tour ball, or if the compression is up around 90 or higher, that is your problem sitting right there in your bag. You do not even have to buy anything yet to confirm what is happening. Just go play one round with a genuinely soft ball, even a cheap one, and pay attention to 2 things: how high the ball flies and how far it rolls out. Here is why that matters. A slower swing hitting a firm ball tends to produce a weak, ballooning flight. The ball climbs too high and drops straight down with no roll because the swing cannot generate the spin and speed the ball demands. Switch to a soft, low compression ball, and that same slow swing produces a stronger, more penetrating flight that carries and then runs. You will see it with your own eyes on the very first hole. You do not need a launch monitor. You need one flat fairway and a willingness to try. And if a soft ball is somehow still too firm for a very gentle swing, there is an even older trick. Warm the ball slightly. A ball kept at room temperature, around 70 degrees, compresses more easily than a cold ball straight from a garage in 40-degree weather. A cold ball goes firm and dead. Golfers have known this for generations. Keeping a ball warm in your pocket between holes on a cold morning is a free way to recover a few yards that the cold stole from you. It is not a myth. Rubber genuinely stiffens as it cools, and a stiffer ball springs back less. That is a trick that costs nothing and works today. So now you know the principle, you know how to test yourself, and you know it applies to you no matter your budget. Let me finally name names. These are the 5 balls I would put in the bag of any senior or high handicapper who wants distance back, and I am giving you the compression zone for each so you understand why it is on the list. The first is the Callaway Super Soft. Its compression sits right around the high 30s, which makes it one of the softest, most playable balls widely available. For a slower swing, this ball flat out launches. It flexes easily, it springs back hard, and it flies straight because the soft core also helps reduce the sideways spin that turns your drives into slices. For a lot of the seniors I have talked to, this one ball changed their whole game, and it does not carry a premium tour price. The second is the Wilson Duo Soft. This is, at various points, one of the lowest compression balls ever sold to the public, sitting down around the mid-30s or even lower depending on the year's model. Wilson built this ball specifically around the science we have been talking about, the idea that most amateurs swing far too slowly to compress a firm ball. If your swing is truly gentle, in the 70s, this is a ball that will reward you. It practically compresses itself. The third is the Srixon Soft Feel. This one sits a little higher, in the low 60s of compression, which makes it a fantastic choice for the senior who still has a bit of speed left, somewhere in the mid to upper 80s. It gives you soft feel and good distance without going quite as soft as the first two. It also holds up well around the greens, so you get a little more control on your short shots, which matters more than people admit. The fourth is the Titleist True Feel. Yes, Titleist, the same company that started the tour ball revolution, makes a soft, lower compression ball for the rest of us, and it sits in the low 60s. If you love the Titleist name and the quality, but you have been wrongly playing their firm premium ball, this is the ball you should have been playing all along. It is their softest, and for a slower swing it will beat their premium ball on distance almost every time. The fifth is the Bridgestone E6 or the E12 Contact. Bridgestone has done more real fitting research than almost anyone, famously fitting hundreds of thousands of golfers, and they built this line specifically for moderate swing speeds and straighter flight. Low compression, low sideways spin, straight and long. For a high handicapper who fights a slice, the straightening effect alone can be worth several yards because a straight ball rolls out and a curving ball dies in the rough. Any one of those 5 will outperform a firm tour ball for a slower swing. That is not my opinion. That is the physics of compression and springback, the same physics a rubber company figured out in 1898. But I promised you at the start that there was one final piece of this trail, a discovery that snaps the whole mystery shut. And this last piece is the thing almost nobody talks about, even the people who understand compression. So stay with me, because this is the part that turns everything you just learned into real, measurable yards this weekend. Here is the buried finale, and I found it tucked inside the technical guidance that governs golf equipment itself and the fitting research built on top of it. Everyone obsesses over which ball to buy. Almost nobody thinks about the condition of the ball they are already hitting, and the condition of your ball may be costing you more distance than the wrong compression ever did. Here is the discovery. A golf ball is a precision instrument, and the outer cover and the dimples are what control its flight through the air. Those dimples are not decoration. They were an accident of history that became a science. Golfers in the 1800s noticed that old, scuffed, dinged-up gutta-percha balls actually flew farther and straighter than smooth new ones. Ball makers started deliberately adding marks and eventually engineered dimples because the dimples grip the air and create lift and reduce drag. A modern ball has roughly 300 to 500 dimples, and every one of them is doing a job on every shot. Now here is where it turns against you. When those dimples get worn, scuffed, filled with dirt, or when the cover gets a cut or a nick, the ball's aerodynamics fall apart. Testing has shown that a scuffed or damaged ball can lose meaningful distance and start curving in the air in ways a fresh ball never would. And a slower swing, your swing, is the most sensitive of all to this, because you have the least speed and spin to spare. The professional's raw speed can partly overpower a slightly worn ball. Yours cannot. Every lost bit of aerodynamic efficiency hits the slow swinger hardest. And here's the second half of the finale, the part I really want you to hear. Old golf balls degrade even when they look perfectly fine. That sleeve of balls that has been sitting in your hot car trunk or your freezing garage for 3 summers, the core has been slowly changing. Heat is the enemy. Studies on ball storage have found that balls stored at high temperatures, the kind of heat a car trunk reaches in summer, can lose compression, consistency, and distance over time. The ball looks brand new. The dimples look perfect, but the rubber inside has quietly gone stale, and it will not spring back the way it did when it was fresh. So here is exactly what to do this weekend, and it costs you almost nothing. First, go through every ball in your bag in your garage and throw out, or set aside for practice, any ball with a visible scuff, cut, cart path scar, or a smile mark from a bladed wedge. Play only clean, undamaged balls in a real round. Second, stop storing your golf balls in the car trunk or the hot garage or the freezing shed. Bring them inside and keep them at room temperature around 70 degrees where the core stays stable. Balls stored properly at room temperature will hold their performance for years. Third, before every round, wash your ball and check the dimples are clean because dirt packed into dimples wrecks the airflow just like a scuff does. Put it all together and you have the full answer that took me months to piece together. Match the ball's compression to your slower swing so it springs back the way Haskell's wound ball did in 1899. Choose from the 5 soft balls I named so you stop playing the tour player's rock. And then protect that ball. Keep it clean, keep it cool in storage and warm in play, and never tee up a scuffed or stale one, because a slow swing cannot afford to waste a single yard on bad aerodynamics. The man in Columbus was right. Nobody knows about the ball anymore. But now you do. You know why you were losing distance. You know it was never your fault, and it was never just your age. You know that the knowledge to fix it is older than your grandfather, that it got buried under a marketing machine that sold you the wrong tool on purpose, and that getting those yards back costs less than the ball you were already buying. I think that is worth something. I think the people who built this game 120 years ago understood something we let ourselves forget. That the ball is supposed to work for the golfer, not the other way around. And I think you are exactly the kind of person who refuses to keep paying more to play worse just because a commercial told you to. So let me ask you one thing, and I really do want you to answer this one. What ball are you playing right now, and what is its compression? Go check the box, come back, and tell me in the comments. If it is up around 90 or higher and you swing under 85, you just found 15 yards you did not know you had. Leave a comment and tell me your ball and your typical drive distance, because I read them and I want to see how many of you were playing the rock without knowing it. If this pulled back a piece of knowledge that somebody quietly took from you, then you belong here, because that is exactly what we do. We dig up the practical things that were common sense once and got buried under decades of stuff we were trained to buy instead. Subscribe and stand with the people recovering what was taken, because the next trail I am following is even stranger. It is about the worn-down grooves on your irons and a cleaning trick from the 1950s that puts spin back on your wedges for free. You are going to want to see where that one leads. Here's where I have to stop for now. If you'd like the rest, join me inside the Old Ways Circle, where I pick up right where this video ended. In there, you can ask me your own question. And a real person? Me answers you myself. And you won't be alone. Thousands of Old Ways folks are already with me. Just point your phone at the code on screen. Cancel anytime, one click, no risk. I'd love to see you inside.